So despite the debates and the back and forth, the latest coronavirus restrictions still fall far short of any meaningful closures. So has Israel simply given up on trying to flatten the curve of infections? Joining us to answer is Deputy Speaker of the Knesset and Chair of the Subcommittee on Foreign and Public Relations, Likud Knesset member Sharren Haskel. Knesset member, thank you so much for being with us. Now, the number of people infected with coronavirus is rising daily, but there's still no clear government policy regarding the steps needed to ensure that we don't lose control. Why are there no clear guidelines during the first wave of the virus?
Well, there is a policy, and we are following it. And obviously, the amount of people who are infected with COVID-19 and the amount of people who die, unfortunately, from COVID-19 or are in the hospital, really bad cases, is changing on a daily basis and on a weekly basis as well. And therefore, you have to curve yourself as well with the severity of the spread of this disease too. It means that we have to be flexible too. If there's a big rise in people who are hospitalized in bad cases of coronavirus, then we'll have to go and see where there's been the most infections, and we'll have to close it. But if we curve it down and it seems like it's starting to sort of ease up, we won't have to actually close it. And that's why the government has to be flexible as well.
Well, but that being said, even the IDF has now suggested that within a few weeks' time, we could be nearing a complete collapse of our medical system. And researchers at Ben-Gurion University are suggesting that lockdowns are the only effective means to fight the virus. And that if the government must keep the economy going, it must also do so in an extremely limited fashion. What do you say to that?
Well, it really depends. I mean, when you see the percentage of where they are being affected, then if we need to go into a lockdown, these are the places that we'll have to close. It doesn't mean that everything has to go into a shutdown. And the way that we need to inspect it is, first of all, the amount of severe cases and the amount of death. If we look on the first wave of the coronavirus, we didn't have the numbers of people who were just infected with, because we didn't have enough amounts of tests to actually check how many were infected with. Today we do, but the guidelines on what needs to be shut down and closed is in those centers where there are the most infections. If 1.7% is being infected in restaurants or in gyms, facilities, sure, then you understand that maybe we need to change some of the guidelines within those places, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we have to shut them down. If you see that in schools there's been a 30% or 20% infection, then you have to go and see which schools have been infected or were the worst case of infections, and how do we treat it so that in September we can actually go into a normal routine of education as well.
All right. Now, many businesses and workers in Israel have been out of work in recent months. Meanwhile, the only monetary plan has not yet quite been approved, and it only really offers payments of just 750 shekels per person for individuals. And again, that's without knowing exactly which recipient is in the most need and which is not. What else is in the works? What's being done?
Well, obviously, people who are, let's say, hired labor in Israel can continue to go on unemployment fees until we end this challenge, or this coronavirus challenge. Probably it will take quite a few months, maybe a year. So they have also unemployment fees that are being paid to them. The problem is with small businesses, independent, freelancers, medium-sized businesses as well, who can't survive. And therefore, we've got a specific plan for them on the side as well that needs to treat them. Most of the people who are self-employed will receive also with the hired labor a unemployment grant on a monthly basis based on their annual income, which will be divided monthly. But we still need to look after small businesses, medium businesses. We had a few amounts of, how do I call it, peimot. We had about 4 times when we actually injected a sum of money into those businesses based on their income as well. We'll continue to do so, but we also have to keep in mind that we cannot shut down completely our entire economy.
Sure. Right.
This is something that we'll probably have to live with for an entire year.
Wow. All right. Deputy Knesset Speaker Sharren Haskel, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you very much.